Good morning, everyone. Frank Andruss here with the Mosquito Fleet, and I'm honored and very pleased to be in the presence of a crew member, an original crew member of PT-109, Mr. Maurice Kowal. And Mr. Kowal, thank you for inviting me into your home today.
It was my pleasure, not yours. Remember that all during this thing. Very good.
Now, I wanted to ask you the beginning of what it was when you got involved with the Navy. What year, do you remember what year you actually got into the Navy, and what made you decide on the Navy?
Well, I was drafted in the Army, and I didn't like the Army, so I went up to the Navy recruiting office, and I told them, they said, we're all filled up. You'll have to wait. So I says, well, I'm going to Fort Devens in 30 days. He said, raise your right hand, and I did. He gave me the oath. And I was in the Navy, but I waited about 2 months to report for active duty.
Now, where did you take your actual boot camp training?
Newport, Rhode Island.
And can you tell us a little bit about what the training consisted of over there?
It was a lot of marching, and I was only over there 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks before I was shifted over to Melville, the PT base.
Now, we know that Melville is just up the coast on Narragansett Bay, so you were shipped over to the Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron Training Center. Do you remember what year you arrived there?
It was in 42.
So in 1942 you arrived there. And what did you think of the base when you arrived? Do you remember?
Well, it's the first time I left home, so it looked like exciting, the boats out there and everything. And it was way down the hill, and when you got there, you walked from the main road down, and it's a good hike. So I was new at it, and I didn't know anything about Navy life.
So now, when you had gotten to the base, had you seen a PT boat prior to this at all? Did you even know what a PT boat was?
Never seen one, never heard of one.
And when you had got there, did you see one right away?
Yes, because the huts where we slept in were right there. Now, you could see them almost from every hut. So they put me in the hut now. Well, then we had some free time, and the whole busload when we just walked. And we got near a boat, and we were starting to get on it, and the Navy man come on. Hey, what are you guys doing? What do you think this is, a pleasure craft? Now get the hell out of here. Yeah, that was my first encounter.
So can you tell us a little bit, what was life like at the base? We had heard, especially in the winters in New England, that it was pretty bad there. And Narragansett Bay had been known to actually be a pretty ferocious part of the ocean at one time. Were you there in the summer, or were you there fall or winter?
Winter, because I went in the Navy October, and I was there in November and December, so it was very cold there.
So what can you tell us a little bit about your training when you were at Melville?
Well, at Melville, we were trained every position on the PT boat. Gunner's mates, quartermasters, engineers. It was just a fast course, more to familiarize you with what's going on. And it was walking from Quonset hut to Quonset hut. Cold.
Now, what can you tell me about being on a PT boat for the very first time? I'm sure a lot of the other PT boat guys have told me that there were loudspeakers that would blare out the fact that you guys would report to the docks to board a PT boat for training. Can you remember your first time on a PT boat?
Yes, we did announce to report the boat, whatever the number was, and you'd go there and you'd stand there, and by the time they got ready and all that, you were frozen solid, and they put you on the boat, and you went there, and it wasn't much, just a ride. But it was very exciting to a kid that never left home before.
Now, a lot of guys have said that they have gotten seasick out there the first time that they were out in the bay. Did that affect you at all?
No, I never was seasick all the time I was in the Navy.
What did you like about the boats when you first got on them? Was it the exhilaration of the ride, the speed, the maneuverability?
That had a lot to do with it, but for a guy like me living in the inland area, being on a PT boat was just like being on a yacht. And everything that was on there, the torpedoes, the machine guns, fascinated me.
Now, back during that time when you were at Melville, had you met John Kennedy at that time?
No, we didn't meet any of the PT officers, just the instructors.
Now, after you had left the Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron Training Center and you got your orders, can you tell us where you proceeded at that point?
Well, first I proceeded to the church. I got married, and was with my wife just 10 days, I think, and then we went on train from Providence to San Francisco receiving station. And while we were there, we were waiting for transportation to the Pacific. And all the time I was there, and it wasn't long, about 2 or 3 weeks, I was working in a shipyard nights, sleep all day and work in a shipyard nights. Then we went on a merchant ship, and they dumped us in New Caledonia.
So you had gone to New Caledonia, and what squadron were you attached with at that point?
No squadron. We just were going over there. When we got to New Caledonia, they marched us up some receiving station way up in the hill, walking there, midnight. And then we come back. We didn't eat. They put us on an APC or some small boat. And we went there, and we went to the New Hebrides. And while we were gone, we didn't eat no breakfast or anything. The crew of the APC ate their breakfast, and the mess cook come out, and they were throwing all the leftover food over the side. And we asked them if we could have it. You're not ship's company. So they threw it all over the side and dumped us off at New Hebrides.
When did you first get involved with the PT-109 and involved with the skipper, as you like to call him, John F. Kennedy?
Well, from there we went to Guadalcanal, and we got a boat from Guadalcanal over to Tulagi. And from there, they assigned me to, I just said the name. Well, anyway, a small island there, and all they had on there was ammunition and 100-octane gasoline. And I was working there, not too long, about 2 weeks, and then the skipper, Kennedy, come over, and he said, "You Kowal?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "You're part of my crew," and that's the first time I met him. He went over there to gas up, and I went aboard the PT-109.
Now, movies, of course, we know, change things quite a bit. In the movie PT-109, the 109 was supposedly a rat-infested wooden boat that took an awful lot to get her into shape. Was that actually true what the movie portrayed when you saw the 109 for the first time?
Yes, it was in a mess, but I didn't see no rats and all that, and we went in dry dock and started scraping the bottom, painting, guns, and so forth, and Kennedy was right there with us all the time, doing the same thing, scraping paint.
So he wasn't afraid to get involved with the work that you had done. Now, of course, you were a gunner's mate at the time, I believe a second class when you had gone aboard the 109. So your job would have been primarily getting the guns into shape?
Yes, and that's where I almost killed him.
How did this happen?
I was cleaning a Twin 50, and of course, it's protected by guards and all that. And I went to cock the gun, and I was a second-class gunner's mate, but I didn't know anything about guns. I didn't even know I was second class, and I put my arm there, Twin 50, and I pulled it, and at that time, both guns went off and just ruffled his hair.
And if it wasn't for the gun stops, we probably wouldn't have had our 35th president.
The gun stops saved his life.
Well, when this happened, I'm sure that Kennedy wasn't too pleased with you at the time.
No, he wasn't. He said, "What are you, second-class gunner's mate? You don't know where the safety..." I didn't know where the safety switch was. 8 weeks at Melville, I didn't know where the safety switch. So my first experience with Kennedy.
So basically, you were taught by the first-class gunner's mate some of the things that went on with the Twin 50s.
Yeah, Charles Harris was on there. He was senior gunner's mate at the time.
That was Bucky Harris. They used to call him Bucky Harris?
Yes.
So now after you got everything all done and the boat was underway, had you met Commander Ritchie at that point?
No.
So you never met Ritchie at all, who was in charge of boats at that time. When the boats when you got everything all clean and everything was up to snuff, then you took out the boat for trials. The 109 went out for trials.
Yeah, and it was Commander Cluster that was the base squadron commander That's the only officer I remember.
And you remember him?
Very well. He was a fine man.
So when you took the 109 out, what types of maneuvers did Kennedy make you guys go through? A lot of general quarter things?
We went through general quarters, speeding, and just about all that, getting familiar with it, everything. The guns, we shooting at barrels and so forth.
Now, we're going to move ahead a little bit after the 109, and you had gone out onto patrol. Can you kind of tell us what a typical patrol might have consisted of?
Well, we did very little patrolling at Tulagi. That was our PT base in Guadalcanal. But then we were transferred to Russell Islands. I don't know how far it was, but it was away from Guadalcanal. And we used to go on patrol there. And the Japs were at Munda, a big base there, an army base and airport and so forth. And we were out there, always on patrol. But there wasn't much action at Russell Islands.
So a typical patrol, you would start a patrol out. Do you recall what time you would actually leave the PT boat base and arrive on station?
Well, it was just getting dark when we were leaving the base. And then when we got to our station, we'd just be patrolling an area around Rendover and Choiseul and so forth.
Now, let's move ahead again to the night that you were injured on the 109. Can you tell us a little bit about what had happened on that patrol and how you were injured? And there was also other 109 crew members that were injured that night.
Well, we were on patrol from Rendover at that time. We left Russell Islands and went to Rendover. Japs were at Munda. And we were on patrol, and you know a PT boat has a big weight to it. Well, at the time, we were just cruising, and it wasn't much. And all of a sudden, a wham, the bomb was dropped, and I got hit in the leg. Drowdy hurt his head, and that's all I remember of that there. But I was terrified. First time away from home, and first time I got shot at. So I was terrified from that day on until I got home.
Now, after you had gotten injured and the crew members of the 109 were injured, now did you continue patrolling or did you go right in?
No, we continued our patrol till daybreak, and then we went in. Then we went to sick bay, and they transferred us to Tulagi, to the hospital there.
And at that point, when you were transferred off the 109, you never saw the 109 again? At that point, you never were assigned back to the 109?
No, when we got out of the hospital, we were waiting to get joined back with them, and then all of a sudden we heard that 109 was sunk, no survivors at the time. That was the worst news that we could have gotten. I shiver right now just thinking of that.
So you got the information that the 109 was lost, and of course they were missing for roughly a week.
Right.
What do you think the big single reason why they weren't allowed to go back to look for the 109 and those survivors?
I don't really know, but it's such a large area, and I don't know if they even knew where they were. But there was no wreckage or anything, so they didn't know where to look.
After you were on the base in the hospital recuperating, do you recall where you were when you had heard that the crew had been found?
We were in Tulagi at the time, and we were walking along. Oh, no, they sent us back to Macambo working, and then we got the news. 109 crews saved. They were all saved. And they said all. That's how we heard it.
And we know from history that it was actually Harold Marney and Andrew Kirksey were actually lost from that crew. Now, did you actually see the crew when they were brought back into the base?
Oh, yeah, we seen them. But going back to Kirksey, he had a dream that he was going to die and all that. And Kennedy wanted to take him off, And he says, you don't have to go on this patrol. But he said that when he went on the patrol and he was lost.
Did Kirksey have this premonition talking about that now while you were still a crew member of the 109?
Yes, yeah, that night.
So you saw the crew of the 109, everybody had had come back, and at that point, what were you doing? You had already been assigned to another position?
Well, I was on Macombo Island across from Tulagi, and we were working there. They had all the gasoline over there, ammunition, and I was working over there, and that's when Kennedy come over and picked me up.
So now you were doing different things after you were taken off the 109. When did you get involved with PT boats again at that point?
Well, Kennedy got assigned to the 59 boat, and that was a wreck. There was nothing really on it. And then we put 8 machine guns, twin 50s, 4 on each side, and 2 40 millimeters, bow and stern. And we got it in shape there. And we went on patrol for barges mostly.
Now, if I recall, that was an old 77-foot Elco PT boat, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you refitted everything, did the work on the boat, and then you had come back to the 59. At that point, were you a first-class gunner's mate on the 59?
I think so, but the crew was offered they could go to New Zealand if they wanted to, but then they give them a thing, you stay a little longer and you can go home, to the States and all that. So I didn't have a vote of drowdy. We just part of the crew. But anyway, they all voted to stay on the 59 so they can get home.
And talking about that now, some of the original crew members of the 109, including yourself, and who were the other original crew members that were on the 59? I believe it was Drowdy.
Drowdy was there. Druich was there.
And I believe it was Mauer, wasn't it?
Mauer, yeah. Well, he was on a PT boat, ship, tender, going over to New Guinea that got sunk. And he couldn't swim. So anyway, he was on there. Now, I can't remember what I was going to say.
So, again, here you guys, the original crew of the 109. Now, did Kennedy know that you guys were assigned to the 59? Again, we go back to the movie where he walks up the gangplank and sees you, original members of the crew, on the 59. Is that how that happened? Did he know you guys were assigned to him prior?
I don't know, but I believe he did. I mean, it's such a small outfit. See, and we had a new officer, too, Ensign Tom. He's a second officer. The head officer, Ensign Webb, didn't last long. Kennedy didn't care for him too much. So we had Ensign Tom on there as exec.
So now you're involved with the 59 again as a gunner's mate. Can you tell us what your general quarters position was on the 59?
I had starboard twin 50.
And that was an awesome amount of firepower. Can you tell us a little bit about when you had gone to rescue some of those trapped Marines on that night?
Well, we went back to our base, and I can't remember what it was, and we were going to go to refuel, and they got the emergency call to go pick up these Marines. They were in trouble. So we took off there, and we went up there, and there was Japs on the shore, and the Marines were in the water shooting at them. We got them all aboard, and we started back to Sasapi, I think it was. But anyway, we ran out of gas, and we got towed the rest of the way in. Two Marines died aboard there, one on the fantail and one in Kennedy's quarters.
So when you picked up these Marines, they were trapped. Now, was this on Choiseul Island?
Yeah, yes, Choiseul. That's exactly right.
And when you went in to get these Marines, were they on the shore when you had to pick them up? How close to the shore did the 59 have to come?
I don't know, but they were walking out to us, and, they almost got aboard without swimming or anything. That's how close. And the Japs were on the shore shooting at them. And we were strafing the shore, trying to keep them back.
When the Marines had gotten on the boat, it said that one of the Marines actually had died in Kennedy's bunk.
Yeah, the one in the cruise in his quarters. Yeah.
Now,
Kennedy always took that personally. He had more feeling for the young people like us.
Now, can you tell us the incident when you had run out of gas? Do you recall how far away from the shore you were? Now, you're under fire from the Japanese shore positions. How far away were you from there when you had run out of fuel?
Well, I believe we were loaded them all on and we were leaving, so we wasn't in danger. But we were drifting, and of course they had to get a boat to pull us in.
Do you recall what boat it was that towed you that night?
No idea.
When you had gotten the Marines back to base, can you tell us what happened at that point when they took the Marines off? Did you continue patrolling?
Oh, no, that was it. The next morning, we were on patrol. The next morning, then we went and picked them up. Then we were getting ready to go out that night.
And now you continued on with patrolling with the 59. Had you run into any other action outside of the Marine problem on Choiseul Island?
No, we didn't. Well, we used to strafe. We used to see their base once in a while on Choiseul, and we'd just strafe them. I don't think we ever hit anything. Well, every time we always hit their comfort stations on our way back to the base, blew them up. Every morning we'd just shoot them up with our twin 50s.
You had a chance to serve with Kennedy on the 109 and again on the 59. In summary, what can you tell us what it was like for you personally to be under the command of Kennedy?
Well, I didn't know anything, about him. And even if I knew he was, a wealthy family, but it didn't impress us any. Because he treated us like he treated himself. When he see a merchant ship come in to go out of canal, he used to go alongside and tie up and go aboard, and he was crazy for ice cream. And he'd get ice cream and make it and all that. And he always got mad at us because when he made it, the cook would have it, and we'd kind of sneak in and eat most of it ourselves. And he was supposed to save one tray for him. But he was a regular guy.
And now, did you keep track of Kennedy's progress after the war? Had you visited with him at all after the war at any point?
He was in Hyannis, and after the war, I got a job on a estate, and they were at the Cape, and one time, and they had a Rolls Royce that Kennedy's father owned. The guy I was working for bought it. And I brought him to it. He owned a hotel on the Cape, and I dropped him off, and I went to Hyannis, where Kennedy's home was. And I went there, and I asked the Secret Service to see him. No, you can't go in and all that. And one said, well, I'll go in and see what the story is. He went in to the house, and he come out with Kennedy. And then talking, and then Kennedy said, come on in. And I said, okay. But then Harriman drove up, and they were having a meeting, and he said, come on, you can sit and listen. But I knew my place, so I said so long, and I didn't go in with him.
Now, after the war had ended, how long did you stay in the Navy after?
Not long. Gee, I can't tell you. 6 months probably.
And then you were shipped stateside, and of course you were married at the time too. And what type of work did you do after the service?
I went to college, the University of Massachusetts, Stockbridge School, and I took up floriculture. And my wife's father owned the greenhouse, and I went to work for him. And I took over when he passed away.
Now, one of the big questions that a lot of people ask, and especially in the world of modelers and PT boat buffs and people as myself that enjoy and have a real true passion for the boats, what was the actual color of the 109 when you got on board? Do you remember?
Oh, it was a battleship gray.
This is something that so many people have asked. There's so much controversy that it wasn't gray, it was green. It was because there's a lot of portraits that portray PT-109 as being green. But when you got on board, it was actually gray.
I'm pretty sure it's gray. I wouldn't say positive, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't green.
I want to get back a little bit, too, because you had spoken about the night that you were injured. And I believe it was a Japanese float plane that had dropped a daisy cutter on the stern of the 109. you had earlier said something about that I would like you to share about how your hair stood up on end.
Well, when he come over, a big piece of shrapnel just missed Kennedy in the cockpit. And I forgot your question. Oh, yeah, when I got hit, the bomb went off and I got hit. I thought I got hit in the head. I had on a helmet and my head hurt. Now, what it was, my hair stood up, so I was so scared. So that explains that situation.
And then, of course, you were injured, and then the book done by Mr. Donovan, PT-109, talks about how you took a couple of steps and your foot was sloshing inside your boot.
Yeah, and I was put down cruise quarters, and Mauer wrapped it up, but my shoes were soaked with blood. Of course, you know, the climate there, and the blood's thin, I guess, and just poured out. And from that day on, I was scared.
Now, after the war was over, you kept in touch a little bit with Kennedy, and I'm sure you watched his progress from a congressman to a president. Do you recall where you were and how you felt when Kennedy was elected president?
Well, at that time, he got me a position in the Minuteman National Park in Concord, and I was near the Knott Bridge at the time, and one of the work crew, come over and says that Kennedy was shot and all that, and I went up there, and I didn't know what to do. I went home listening to the news, and then I forget who it was. I called someone in the White House. I had a telephone number, and I asked how he was. He says, well, he's passed away, and I was a wreck. And he was going to call me back and get me to Washington, but he never did. He got too busy.
I want to back up because I think you misunderstood me just a little bit. I wanted to know where you were when he was elected president.
I was home listening to all the news about him, and I met him a few times campaigning. One time in Worcester, I was shopping with my father, and who comes down? Someone pushed me, and turned around. It was Kennedy. Give me a big shove, and of course my father was, a foreigner, and he seen Kennedy, and boy, that was a highlight of his whole career in life.
Now, outside of President Kennedy, had you kept in contact with the crew of the 109 and the 59 after the war?
Well, Harris was from Waltham, and Johnson was there, and Mauer. We were both together after the war, and then he got married, and then he come up with his wife, and his wife stayed with my wife at her home, so we were pretty close with Mauer, but also Harris and Johnson. They were just an hour or so away. Now,
we talked about earlier, you and I, how Gerard Zinser had been dubbed as the last survivor of PT-109. And, of course, in this conversation with you and I want to go publicly as stating that Mr. Zinser's title should actually have been last survivor of the crash of PT-109. Now, is it safe to say that you are the last survivor of the original crew of PT-109? Do we know of anyone else that is around?
We do not, and I am definitely the last original crew member
of PT-109. I want to thank you so much for inviting me into your home here today and for spending time with me. And I hope that I have asked some questions that were intelligent for you to answer. And is there anything else that you might like to add?
No, I can't. I'm just lucky that I knew a man like him.
Again, thank you. That interview was with last surviving member of the original crew of PT-109, Maurice Kowal. Thank you again.
Thank you for coming.